Sit down.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm George Johnson. I'm running for City Council in Northeast Baltimore, District 13. I have a quick question. How do you ensure when construction may start on some of the land grants that African Americans, especially African American males, will get jobs on these sites? Because on many of the sites, a lot of the help wanted signs are written in Spanish.
With Nehi, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, I'm Jason Carter, running for the 12th District City Council. My question is on the taxes that apply to the land and the properties. The general statement, the tax assessment and rates are typically too high for low-income homeowners. And to go along with that, how does the land trust address its portion of the taxes? Because taxes are based on the land and the improvements.
So what I would like for you all to do, to each one of you all take one of those three questions. You take one of those questions.
I'm trying to remember your question. Oh, about the health plan. What Nehi proposes to do is use small neighborhood and local contractors so that we actually are controlling who does the renovation. And those people will be required to hire and train at least one person that lives in the community.
That's also what the Community+Land+Trust does as well.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, that's also what the Charm City Land Trust does now in terms of hiring locally people that live in the neighborhood for whatever the job tax price.
And in terms of assessments and land values, we have a state statute that was passed a number of years ago that governs the tax assessments and the improvements on it. It basically, and also deals with property appraisals and its effect on neighbors' equity. And that statute essentially says that tax assessors should assess the land based on fair market value, but subject to any resale formula and resale restrictions. But it also says that any transaction is not an arm's length transaction, basically meaning that it's not a comparable sale when you're selling your own house. If you're not in a land trust and you live next to a land trust, the fact that a land trust just got sold for $5,000 less than you want to sell your house is not going to impact you because of that statute. Last thing I'll say on bonds, we are talking public bonds, we are talking municipal bonds, that's munis they're called, and I would disagree that munis, the muni market is going to collapse soon.
Hi, I just have a question from upstairs. I just want to be fair to everyone. So this is coming from Gary Williams of YNP in Baltimore. What are current policy obstructions in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore or Maryland that are hindering the work of CLTs? Are there any current bills or legislation pending in City Hall or Annapolis that makes the work of CLTs easier?
I'll respond to part of that. One of the things that Nehi did this fall was to, along with other people from the Housing Roundtable, make a presentation to the City Council's Housing Committee. And they were very, very receptive. We have our work cut out for us, though, when educating them about the nuts and bolts of a land trust, how it actually operates. Believe it or not, what I would think would be opposition to the land trust are a lot of the other well-established housing organizations that are for-profit organizations, because they would see us as a threat to their revenue stream. There has been a little bit of pushback on from some of those organizations that we've talked to about what we are going to do. Because actually a land trust is a better use of money. Because as was mentioned, you're putting the money in one time. It gets repeatedly recycled. Whereas these other organizations subsidy they give to the homeowner, once the prices of the property increase and that person decides to move, they're pocketing that subsidy and taking it along with them to their new home. So our opposition is going to come from a lot of the organizations that are working on housing issues, but they are for profit.
Just briefly, it would be great if we had a whole platform of legislative initiatives that have been introduced by a champion of the city council or a champion of the state legislature. But by design, we do not, and that's because really of this approach. And that is, it's a community approach, and it's about building power. And good ideas simply do not happen. There are lots of good ideas out there that don't happen. And this is really about building power to make those ideas happen. And to some extent, we are circling City Hall with our community organizing and our political mobilization so that we can get a capital budget that has money in it, which is important, that we can get perhaps a land bank that would make property acquisition much more easier for community groups, that we get a Vacants to Value program and a Department of Planning that prioritizes community groups. But it will get there. We'll get there.
Last question.
Good afternoon. My name is Chukwemeka Ego. I'm running for Mayor of Baltimore, unaffiliated. The concern I have to share, which is three-part questions. You just raised the last one. You're talking about being able to buy from the Vacant to Value program. As a group, CLT is almost set up as a corporation. Wouldn't you have a good advantage over an individual who wants to buy property for personal use? And also, you're demanding $20 million from the public funds to put towards CLT. Will you also stand and also support the idea that, say, an individual comes up with an idea that they want to develop a property? Should they also have some government assistance attached to it? Because Baltimore is a city starving for personal empowerment. I mean, any small person here who's a businessman like myself also knows that it's very difficult to get any kind of assistance from the government. But as a group, or sort of as a corporation like you are, you can put up this public demand and we have to entertain it. It's a very good idea, don't get me wrong. How will you encourage support for individuals, just as good as an idea as yours, to get support from the government? And also, do you also believe that we should put a limit to how much or how many property CLT should be allowed to own? Because at some point you're going to get to a point where we say too big to fail.
Just briefly, on Vacants to Value, Joan Jacobson did a great report on Vacants to Value that was sponsored by the Able Foundation. And in that report, it indicates in terms of privately owned property, you need to have $90,000 on hand to be a certified bidder for expedited receivership properties, which are sold at auction under the Vacants to Value program. That's for private property. With public property, the city says they will deal with you, and they will work deals with you. But there is a significant capital cost up front, at least for private properties, and that's one of the reasons why we're recommending, money to be into this, and also changes to Vacants to Value, or at least having a land bank. The other question was limitation on property. If we get too big, I think we cross that bridge when we come to it.
Thank you all so much for your interest, your staying with us, your vibrancy, and your commitment. Now, I understand that there's a place where you can sign on to move this agenda forward. I'd like to, for anyone who wants to become a part of this movement, give you a phone number to call so that you can sign on. Are you ready? 443-745-8950. I'd like to repeat that. 443-745-8950. Thank you so much.
Can you tell us what that phone number is?
Remember, I told you all, I'm before technology. Now, what is the website? www.baltimorehousing.org. Thank you all so much. I understand that there will be a light lunch reception. You certainly are welcome to stay. Please mingle. If you have any questions, we are there to answer them for you. Thank you all so much. I will